Everybody, what is up? Welcome to the How to Retire from NASCAR DFS live, laughing, right? Live preview show previewing the Daytona 500. That's right, folks. I am retired from putting out NASCAR DFS content, but lucky for you, I have a good friend who does all the work, knows all the plays, knows what to do, and he is going to set us up. My man from Daily Fan Racing, Ryan Larkin. How's it going, man?
I am great. That is an intro, Jason. That is fantastic. He's not retired, obviously. That's why you're seeing him right now. I'm doing great. It has been a very long 4 days, right? From the duels all the way till now. So a little tired, but definitely excited for the Daytona 500. I know it's delayed till tomorrow, which sucks. But I mean, doubleheader tomorrow. That's not too bad. We can live with that. Kids are off from school, so I'll have them watch it, and we'll enjoy racing tomorrow.
Yeah, I don't miss that grind that you're doing, man. I know how it is. These 4 days are long, and it sucks. Like you've got all this working, and now we got to sit and you got to wait. So I'm curious. Like it's the Daytona 500. We've been waiting all off season, excited about this, and then now we have this postponement. Has that dampened your excitement? I guess for this week for the Daytona 500. What does that do for you?
It has to an extent because there is something where, Daytona 500's and it's damn 70th year almost by now. So you're so used to that. I'm watching this on Sunday, right? Like that, it's kind of ingrained in you. Like it's not Super Bowl Monday, it's Super Bowl Sunday, right? And so from that aspect, I do kind of wake up this morning thinking, damn, I wish there was a race this afternoon. But we're still going to get the same event. We've seen Monday races before. It's actually pretty common because it rains in Florida a lot. Mm-hmm. The show's going to be just as good. We just have to wait a little bit longer. So I think it'll be cool. Nothing wrong with waiting, right? Good things that come.
Yeah, that's the same feeling I have. They're going to line up. The green flag's going to wave. The green flag is going to wave at some point. We're going to get that action. And, to me, there is nothing else in sports quite like the Daytona 500, right? I honestly don't think there's an event you can watch on television that gives you more butthole pucker moments, those moments that make you light in your chair as you're watching than the Daytona 500. So all that stuff's still going to come out. We're going to have the drama of those final laps. We're going to see a winner. We're going to see a champion. So don't let the mood of the brain out affect you guys. And you know what? Somebody is still going to win $1 million this weekend, right? So hopefully, not hopefully, it is going to be somebody who's watching this channel, right? So
that would be amazing.
The good vibes, right? So let's go ahead. Let's not waste anybody's time. Let's dive into the slate. I do want to put out a little bit of a disclaimer, right? I am brand new to this whole hosting game, right? Hopefully I'm going to ask the right questions, but if there is anything that I failed to miss on, a question I forget to ask, or I just am an idiot asking the wrong questions, please guide me. Ask your questions in these comments here, and Ryan will get us going. So, Ryan. Yes. Let's start us out. What is the overall strategy? How do you approach a race like the Daytona 500? Tell us what to expect and just general overall approach. And I want to hear it.
You pray. No. So we had this discussion really in depth on the premium podcast we did. And basically it centered around the fact that back in the day, you love stack to back. Like that is kind of something you dig a lot, right? And we were talking about how back in the day, we would have 2 premium motorsports cars, 3 Rick Ware racing cars, the 32, the 62, like a plethora of these back markers that would just kind of ride. And we don't have that anymore. We got the 62 with Alfredo, but even the Rick Ware racing cars, one's a Stuart Haas prepared car with Riley Herbst, and Justin Haley's an improved program for what they were. And I started thinking, I was like, this entire field from top to bottom is basically looking to make something happen, in this race. They're not going to be riding, except for maybe to be safe for the first half, but they're all going to have expectations of finishing top 10 and getting great results or winning. And so I think the carnage is actually going to be escalated, and we don't have the safety nets either, which is very, very concerning. Like I think we are going to look at lineups at the end of the day and be like, wow, there was nobody that we can really rely on at the beginning that'll be there at the end. And that's kind of cool. But I also think it throws even more randomness into it. We do want those guys starting in the back, place differential plays. Blaney and Busch are super chalky, right? And then you got Gregson, Hemrick, and other guys in the back. If one of them finishes top 10, they're optimal. Like it's just simple math will say that. So you want to hammer those guys, but also if Blaney wrecks at 40% ownership, he kills 40% of lines, right? And then anyone starting up front who crashes kills a bunch of lines. So you're trying to get 6 drivers to the end in a race where half the field wrecks out. It is such a crazy setup. You have to be a bit lucky, but you know when you're building those lineups, you need the right combination of place temperature plays, the guys that are going to reach that upside, but you also need guys starting towards the front. You know, we have seen in recent years guys starting top 10 or finishing top 5 and leading laps and winning and things like that. So it's not just if you're trying to win $1 million, it's not just stacked back. It is who, where, when, and how. You know, last summer, Buescher, Keselowski, 11th, 12th, finished first, second. If you're fading the top 15, you miss out on the 2 best plays. So it's a combination of all of it, and it really is a bit of luck, which kind of sucks. But if you can build your lineups the right way, you're giving yourself a better shot.
Yeah, you say a bit of luck. I will argue and say it is a shit ton of luck, right? Because let's be honest. At first, you got to get guys through the carnage, right? We stack the back is the smart approach, right? Because you're going to, minimize risk, you maximize your upside, blah blah blah. All the things we like to talk about from a DFS perspective. But at the end of the day, like you got to get 6 cars to the finish, right? If you have 6 cars on the track at the end of this race, you're going to get 6 cars probably in the top 10, and you're probably going to win a shit ton of money, regardless where those guys start, right? So,
yeah,
I agree with all that. There is when it comes down to hitting $1 million today and getting that big win. Yeah, you're gonna have to get lucky, right? And you're just gonna have to hope and pray. I mean, that's the long and short of it.
Strength in numbers. The more people that watch this, and the more people that build lineups, the more likely we'll have someone in here win it. So, just everyone needs to max it out. And I know everyone's got $4,000 laying around.
All right, so let's dive in and let's start breaking down. I want to go through this. I know, like I said, I know it's going to be hard to, give guys we like and all that because, it is kind of a crapshoot. But let's talk about these drivers, try to talk about them in this perspective of, like if they make it through the carnage. We're going to talk about them from a skill standpoint, from an ownership standpoint. And just how you're going to approach them from the DFS. So I want to start from the back to the front because the back is, where the meat and potatoes of this slate is going to be. It's where a lot of the ownership's going to go from. Sack the back is not a secret anymore, right? And we see, probably the 3 to 4 highest guys on the slate are going to come in this range. So let's talk about it. I want to know, let's talk about 3 guys first. I want to get your thoughts. Ryan Blaney, Kyle Busch, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. I think those top 2, Blaney, Kyle Busch, if I read it right, probably the 2 highest owned guys on the slate, and Ricky Stenhouse would probably be a little bit further from them, but still probably 3rd highest. How are you approaching these 3 guys?
So, for starters, this slate or Super Speedway slates have always been cash slates for me. I've been a guy that really likes to play cash and essentially lock in profit. Now, it hasn't always worked. I've played Austin Therio at Talladega, and he's been 4 seconds behind the pack and still found the wreck, right? Like sometimes it doesn't work out, but I've always thought I'm going to go in here, play cash. That's going to handle all my tournament entries because a lot of people make mistakes still and they don't stack the back and they don't do that. So Busch, Blaney, they feel like cash locks to me. Like the ownership's going to be too high. They're too big of names. They start too far back. They feel like cash locks. Stenhouse kind of fits into that mold, although I can make the argument that you don't have to play him in cash. But if you're looking to build one lineup just to kind of get some profit, you probably need to start there, right? The downside to this is if you look at their track records, and yes, Blaney has Talladega wins, but Stenhouse wrecks a lot, right? Like the upsides that he won last year, but he wrecks a lot. Blaney has crashed out the last 2 Daytona races I've watched. So I know Blaney crashes here, and everyone's at that risk, and it's more to the generalized point that everyone is at risk of crashing here. So when you got drivers like Blaney, Busch, Stenhouse, and tournaments who are going to be 35 to 40% owned, maybe a little bit more depending on what the field does, if they crash out, a huge chunk of the field's not going to have a shot. So you can leverage that. And I think that's the best play. You don't want to go 60%. You don't want to go over that number. The play to be different is going to be to go under. Obviously, Blaney, Busch, those guys are elite upside guys. So we know talent-wise they're very, very good. They're very, very smart drivers as well, so they're going to make wise decisions. And if they perform well and everything goes their way, yes, top 10, they're going to be optimal. You have to eat it. But if you go over and they crash out, you've literally hurt yourself. If you go under and they crash out, you've given yourself a big leverage to the field. And, we talked about crashes here. Half the field wrecks out, right? We saw in the truck race that there was a huge chalk area with Rhodes, Eckes, and Heim. Rhodes crashed out, Eckes crashed twice, and then Heim was the only one that delivered. And if 2 or 3 guys crash out at 35-40% each, then you're getting a huge advantage on the field. So I personally like going underweight on those guys in tournaments just to kind of be different. But they're going to factor in so much because everyone's going to be on them. And the slate does kind of revolve around them to an extent because of that.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of ownership's going to be on these guys, and for obvious reasons, right? I mean, these guys all have a great upside. I think when you look at least Kyle Busch and Ryan Blaney, right, they're top 5 odds to win the race. So obviously, they're going to soak up a lot of ownership. So avoiding them in GPP or at least being under the field. I mean, your field's going to be 50-60%, right? So you can even be 20-30%, still get a good portion of these guys and still be well under the field, right? Which I think obviously is the smart play. But if you're playing one lineup, right, you're going to have to make a decision here because obviously you're not going to fade. I mean, you can obviously fade all 3 of these guys if you're playing one lineup, right? But if you're choosing one guy to fade, let's see. I know it's probably hard to pick which guy to fade here, but let's play a little game here. Can you rank these guys for me, at least as far as super speedway driver, like super speedway ability? Blaney, Kyle Busch, Stenhouse. How would you rank them?
In that order.
Blaney, Kyle Busch, then Stenhouse, 1, 2,
3. Blaney has had elite upside. You know, he's won Talladega races. He's dominated Daytona 500s in the past. His team, speed-wise, has always been at the top. You know, Penske's been elite for over a decade on super speedways. Blaney's really, really good at it. And so I do rate him the best. Kyle Busch is actually really good. He just often gets involved in crashes, which is a downside. Like, you will see him at the front at Daytona, and you're like, consistently, but he's constantly just involved in other people's mess. And Stenhouse...
Sorry, that brings me to step. I don't want to cut you off because there's more to this brings me to step 2 of this question. Okay, because how would you rank them as far as likelihood to get in a wreck? Blaney,
Stenhouse 1.
Okay, yeah, this helps,
for
right?
all of eternity.
That makes you, if you think Stenhouse is the worst of these 3 and he's the most likely to get in a wreck, then obviously Stenhouse is your fade. I feel like, right?
Yes and no. Yes and no. I don't, and I wish I knew what the public would do. I wish I knew that they would say Busch is 40%, Stenhouse is 30%. Because if that's the case, I would want Stenhouse over Busch just for the ownership side of things.
You think
like, I know,
is that?
I want to leverage that a little bit more. Yeah, and so that kind of would factor into it. But yeah, Stenhouse is more erratic, right? He gets caught up in wrecks. Like, he had the Daytona and Talladega wins in like 2016 or 17, whatever that was. And then for the next 5 years, we played him all the time. We're like, oh, Stenhouse is great at this. And he wrecked every single time. So just because he won last year, that doesn't take away from the fact that he wrecks at a very high percentage in these races. So does Kyle Busch. But, you know, Stenhouse is very erratic, and not just in his driving style, but where he races in the pack. This isn't a top tier team with a bunch of teammates to work with. He's going to go up there and run with 4 Toyotas or anything. No, he's by himself. He's a Chevy team, and he's going to latch on to some of the other Chevys. But this is not a guy that has teammates and can kind of get into a flow like that. He's doing this on his own, and he is a bit selfish when he races these races. So he will get himself into trouble as a result. He will be in the middle of the pack. He will be in a situation where he shouldn't be. He'll also throw a block that he shouldn't, or do some things, and that gets him in trouble. So he's definitely the riskiest to me. Blaney, to me, is the least risky, even though he's wrecked the last 2 times. I just know that potential is always there to wreck. So for me, Blaney's the best. He's got the best upside. He's most likely to win this race if someone's going to win it. And so he would be like the best play from that perspective, but he also may be the most owned. And at that point, is he really the best play?
Yeah, I would say he's likely will be the most owned in this range. I mean, it would be close between him and Kyle Busch, but yeah, I think it'd probably be Blaney as well. So so we know those guys are gonna be the chalk guys, right? I would say the next guy down as far as ownership in this range is gonna be Austin Dillon. Like, I don't think we got to spend too much time, hashing through Austin Dillon. Austin Dillon's a good super speedway driver, right? And you're gonna have some exposure to Austin Dillon, right? I think the guys that I think are interested in this range, the guys who are going to be the lower owned guys in this range, because I think there are some spots where you can find some leverage in this field and still, get that upside. So tell me who your guys in this range are.
Yeah, so one of the things that used to, when talking about like the old Rick Ware cars and the premium and all that, so those guys would often come in at really low ownerships. And part of that was because their upside wasn't typically top 10 unless a lot of the field wrecked. But the ownership would be like 7% on someone that you knew was going to score 40 points. And I would just sit there and like, dude, if he gets a couple more spots, he's optimal. And we've seen David Reagan hit in those spots, and we've seen other drivers hit in those spots. The thing for me is that this field's so deep and ownership's going to be so spread out. Like, guys in the mid-20s are really good plays. Bubba Wallace like 24th, Truex 27th, all the way back to Busch, Blaney, Austin Dillon, Stenhouse. Like, there's ownership's just going to be so spread out that I think Hemrick gets really overlooked. I think Gregson gets really overlooked. And Josh Berry starting 30th gets really overlooked. And, all these guys have the potential to finish top 10, like anyone does at Daytona. But they're going to see half the ownership of Busch, Blaney, and Stenhouse, maybe even less than half. And you can get the exact same theoretical upside from them. So I really, really like those guys in lineups. David Reagan starting last is going to be someone I'm heavy on because I think he's a safer, smarter driver, and he starts dead last. These guys starting at the back, Gregson, Hemrick, Reagan, their floors are set, right? They're going to score positive points in this race. A driver starting 20th, or I think Chastain's 21st, if he crashes out and finishes 31st, he's going to have like -2 points or something. He's going to hurt your lineup. Whereas if David Reagan just finishes 24th, he scores 30 points and it's a good score. Like it doesn't win you $1 million, but it's a good safe score. But his upside is like, hey, I finished 15th and smashed the slate. So I really like those guys at the very, very back, especially since they're going to come in way under owned than they should be. And then Josh Berry really stands out because 30th is going to be on that window where people aren't really paying attention. You got Austin Dillon, you got those guys right behind them. And I think it's actually the perfect leverage spot. And so I really like Josh Berry for that reason. I don't like him because I think he's a great speedway racer or anything like that, but just avoid the wreck and you got a shot. So I do like him a lot.
Yeah, I agree. I think there is a ton of leverage. I think there's just a ton of leverage because if you look, like when building lineups, you could literally build a lineup with Ryan Blaney, Kyle Busch, Ricky Stenhouse, Bubba Wallace, Martin Truex. You could put all 5 of those guys in a lineup. And for that reason, I think all 5 of those guys are going to be very high on. Like I know you said there might be some leverage on Bubba and Martin Truex. I have a feeling they're going to probably wind up in like that high 20 range because, Toyotas were fast. But I still honestly, like when you look at ownership in the past, at least from back when I used to do content back in the day, right? The higher price the driver was, right, and the further back they were starting, the higher owned they were going to be. So you always had those guys, cheap guys that nobody plays, and like Riley Herbst to me sets up as an amazing play this week, right? Because he's got the mentality of just riding. That's what his strategy has always been. I think all these Rick Ware cars are going to still just ride in the back. They're not going to be mixing it up. I think even Haley is going to drop back, and no one's going to play Riley Herbst because you're not going to need to dip down to 5,100. Like everybody's got all the salary. They're going to spend it up. They're not going to dip down. Herbst, Hemrick, even Alfredo, like those guys. Yeah. I think Reagan's going to see some ownership because they're a little higher price, especially Reagan's 8,000 starting 40th. So I think that not 8,000, 6,500 starting 40th. So I think people are going to click him, but still, yeah, a lot of leverage.
So on the Herbst point, and this can kind of go for a lot of those lower owned guys. Keep in mind, we have played a lot of NASCAR DFS, right? But this contest is going to bring in a lot of people who never play NASCAR DFS. They're chasing that $1 million, right? So you're going to have a lot of new people, in my contest, which is only 75 people or whatever, 10 of them will play driver starting at the front. They'll completely build horrible lineups, right? And you'll be like, wow, why are you doing that? And you just realize there's a large chunk of these people that don't know how to play this race or won't play it properly. And they will play guys at the front. They will avoid the cheap drivers because they're like, well, the cheap people suck, when that's just not the case with how these slates work out. To your point with Herbst, he finished 10th at Talladega last year. But he did that by running at the front most of that race, which concerns me to an extent, to my point of everyone has a chance to run well here. His MO last fall at Talladega was, I'm just going to be up here. He qualified 6th and he ran up there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he qualified 6th for the summer Daytona race, and he wrecked out, finished 38th. And that type of thing with a driver starting 6th and finishing 38th murders a lineup, right? Like it's just done for. But Herbst from in the 30s with top 10 ability, because I know this is a Stewart-Haas car, and he has 4 guys to work with within that Stewart-Haas team. Riley Herbst is someone that I absolutely love from a tournament perspective because I think you're right. I think his upside is great. I do think he'll ride around more, but I don't know if it's going to be as much as you're anticipating. But last Daytona 500, started 38th, finished 10th. That's all we want. That's all we want from him. And if he implements the strategy from last year versus what he did in the summer, yeah, he's got a really good shot of being on the winning lineup. So Herbst, to me, a guy that's going to be 12% owned, but I think has maybe 15%, but is going to have the upside of a race, or slate stealer. So I really do like that play.
All right, Nate B says, Jason, I need the wheel. Go to my Twitter at DFS NASCAR. The wheel is there in my Twitter. You can spin it, make you some lineups. I think there's going to be $1 million out there somewhere. All right. Anything else for the back there? Any final thoughts on those back 10 guys there? And you want to move on?
No,
To that
that's
next
pretty
range?
much it. I really like leveraging this slate. We got a group of 10 guys, maybe 11, 12 if you want to go up the Truex and play everyone in the back. All these guys have the most upside, right? They can add 20 plus place differential points. Corey LaJoie will be popular as hell from that range as well, just because he's delivered so often. Half the field's wrecking out. Half of them are wrecking out. They are not delivering. And yes, this group will be a part of that. So if you avoid it and these guys get up there, you are set up so well. So you want to mix and match these guys. You don't just want to be like, now if you're playing 3 lineups and you're taking 3 shots, just do what you got to do. But if you're playing 20 lineups, you want to mix and match these guys. You don't want to get overexposed to any of them. You want to get different variations of these combos. You want Bush, Blaney, and then Dylan. Well, then I'm going to take Dylan out and put Herbst in. Then I want to take Bush out and put, you want to do this thing where you're covered that way. If 3 of them get through, you're good. But you're basically just trying to get one to the end. And that one's going to be your big shot.
Yeah, that's a good point to hammer home, right? Especially at super speedways, is it only takes one lineup, right? Because I know personally with me, man, like even like I'm a hand build guy. So when I'm building multiple lineups, like I still feel like I'm building stuff too close together and I'm not spreading stuff out enough, right? Because I'm building the guys around the guys I like, and I still end up with like, oh shit, how did I get 60% of this guy, right? So I think that is something to really remember. Like just because you like a guy doesn't make him being any more of a better play than anybody else, right? It really, like, the wheel is there for a reason. It really is random, right? Spread it out. One lineup. It's all you got to get through, and your day is made.
And you can play, a lot of people have their sheets out. I think people know how I feel about sheets, but, they'll have them out and they'll use past history and like Corey LaJoie, who almost never wrecks in this race and things like that, right? They'll utilize that and say, well, Corey LaJoie is a phenomenal play because he has a great track record here. And to an extent that is correct. To an extent that's correct because he does get a lot of good finishes. But the context of him driving a 32 car that was told do not get in the pack, do not wreck, versus what he's doing now, which is elevating a program and now taking more risk and running towards the front more, he's going to be more likely to be in a wreck. And you have to consider the context of everything that's happening. Don't just look at a spreadsheet and be like, hey, look, this guy's got a lot of good finishes. It's a lot more random than that. And you just have to kind of it's just, you're right. It's random. I kind of was rambling. I didn't.
Yeah, it's all right. I love just put it off there. I love the stats that you see out. It's like this guy in what is it? Incident free races has an 8.8 average finish. Like, yeah, no shit. Doesn't everybody who doesn't get a wreck at Daytona have an 8.8 average finish in those races that make it to the end? One. Because you're like, because like 12 cars are left. Like, of course.
Yeah, there was a race that a few years back. It was probably Daytona 500. And I think Ryan Newman was in a wreck, and he was riding around the apron at like 100 miles an hour, but they kept wrecking. So they never had a green flag lap. And he ended up on the lead lap like 12th at the end of this thing, and he couldn't go over 100 miles an hour. It's hilarious. But like that's what happens if you just have your car moving at a certain point at the end of these things.
All right, I see a question on here. Thoughts on Briscoe? You ain't got to touch on him right away, but he is in this next range. We'll move on to this 29 through 20 range here. It's, probably going to see a little less ownership than those guys in the back. I think the guys who stick out to me, at least, who's going to draw a heavy portion of the ownership. We kind of spoke a little bit. So your thoughts on the Bubba Wallace Martin Truex combo here. They are, two Toyota duo, and you can probably lead into talking about how, like, team stacks kind of play into it as well.
Yeah, so I wish I had. Give me a second. I'm going to pull up the starting order on my phone. I've been looking at like my projections and stuff. And I just don't have it set up the way I want it. But so Truex and Bubba Wallace are really, really good plays in my opinion. I think what you said earlier, where they're probably in the mid-20s, is right. I think that's probably the right expectation. But they should be relatively lower owned than Blaney and Bush, which is my first thought is these are good pivots, but they still give you big place differential potential, and they're still somewhat safe, right? If Bubba Wallace crashes out in the second big wreck of the race and he finishes 26th, he's not killing your lineup. Like, you're still going to have a shot here with that to cash it. And for me, the way I play is I want to cash lineups and then hopefully get one to the end. I don't want to just take shots and pray something gets through and then lose half my bankroll. I'm a big believer in like, let's set ourselves up for some success, even if it's not $1 million. It may only be $50 a profit. I want to profit first and foremost. Bubba Wallace strikes me as someone who can do that. Like, he won't kill a lineup, but his upside is he's a guy with multiple top fives at Daytona. He's a guy that's super aggressive, leads laps at this track type, has phenomenal teammates to work with. He's going to go up there and work with Denny Hamlin. He's going to work with Tyler Reddick, Christopher Bell, Martin Truex. Like, this is a top tier team. And we saw in the duels, Toyota's qualified like crap. They get in the duels and they go straight to the front. In the draft, they are fantastic. There's something about those cars where in the draft, they are super strong. And I absolutely love Bubba Wallace for that. I think he's a super aggressive driver at this track type, which is key. That's what gets him to the front. That's the ability that gives him upside, because you see him lead laps at Talladega and Daytona all the time. Like, he's finding his way up there. Truex isn't that type of driver. Truex typically isn't someone we think of as a great super speedway driver, but 27th is a great starting position. We know Toyota's strong, plenty of people to work with, and that's going to give him the opportunity to do well regardless of him being a great super speedway racer. Keselowski, Hamlin, Blaney, these are guys we think of like, hey, they're the elite. Joey Logano too. They're going to constantly be up front no matter what day of the week it is at a Daytona race. Truex isn't that, but it doesn't really matter in a race like this. So I love both those plays. And then, but again, to our point, there's going to be pivots. Briscoe was asked about there, starting 20th. That's a great pivot point because no one's going to play Chase Briscoe. Nobody. Like, it's going to be such a small ownership on a guy starting mid-pack with really good upside. So, and considering the group that's directly in front of Briscoe, Byron, Larson, Keselowski, and Busch all start directly in front of him. No one's playing Chase Briscoe. Nobody. And so you're going to get that leverage by just playing someone who no one's on. And if he sneaks through, you're golden. Briscoe led 67 laps here last summer before being involved in that Priest crash. He was up front. He has not shown it consistently because he's a young driver, but he has led laps here in this car within the past 6-7 months. So I do think he's someone to consider, but mainly because at 10% ownership, he's going to be a steal if he hits.
He's going to be way underowned. No one's going to play Chase Briscoe, like you said. I mean, he's also coming in odds. His odds are plus 6,000 too, which I think is crazy. Like, some of the guys he's priced around, I didn't bet him, but I think there's definitely value in there. But that's also going to bring his ownerships down. That impacts a lot of what people play, right? I do agree. The Toyotas, right? They looked incredible in draft. They looked incredible in practice. I do think, though, I think a lot of lineups will start with Blaney, Busch, and one of the two of Bubba and Truex. Like, it's easily fit in. Like, the salary makes it very easy to do. I think more lineups will start like that than lineups will start with Bubba, Truex, and then one of those two. And I think that probably makes the more sense to play, stacking your Toyotas together, playing them together. And Martin Truex, right? He ran really well last year at Super Speedways. Didn't he win more stage races at him than anybody else? So he got to the front.
Right. He was good in the duels the
front, moved to the front, good in the duels.
He just doesn't check boxes in a stat sheet. Like, if you look at the scorecards or the sheets, it doesn't look great. But yes, Truex is. I mean, I went to Disney with my wife for our wedding. We got married just outside Disney and then did a whole week there. I was driving up when he narrowly won the 500. Like, that was the year him and Hamlin basically finished side by side, and Truex was right there. And if Truex wins that race, the whole narrative changes. But because he didn't, you just don't consider him that guy. But yeah, you're right. He's got the ability. He's got the car. He can do it. It's just will he? I guess is the key.
Quick question here: Ricky Stenhouse Jr. or Austin Dillon in cash? Who you choosing? They both feel like the same exact play.
That's what I didn't finish reading that. Yeah, they do feel like the exact same play. I think Austin's a little safer. I think he's a little bit more measured in his thought process. So there could be that. I think ownership may be a little bit higher on Stenhouse because of the win last year. So if you're playing the ownership number game, you probably go Stenhouse, but I think Dillon's fine. I personally would probably go Dillon. Personally,
tell me if you think this is accurate with when you're looking at cash, right? I feel like there's going to be quite a few people that are going to get lured into Bubba and Martin Truex in cash. And I think the move in cash this week would be to go avoid those guys, right? And truly stack the back. And then there's going to
be a lot of people that play Keselowski and Buescher too.
Yeah.
And,
right.
That and Hamlin, Hamlin starting 8th will get cash ownership which is
But I think
asinine.
smart people will play Bubba and Martin Truex and Cash. Like, I think idiots obviously going to play the guys up there, but I think even smart players.
Not a lot. I don't think it'll be a lot because anyone like me, I locked in Busch and Blaney. So 2 slots are filled up with guys that I know are going to go for it. I think I played Austin Dillon. I'm pretty sure I played him, but I played Reagan, Alfredo, and I forget who else. It might have been Herbst. But I feel like Alfredo and Reagan are safe plays. They're going to be more likely to ride in the back and not crash out, right? I feel like their ability to get 30 to 40 points is pretty good. Whereas I know the risk of playing Truex is that he gets caught up in a crash. Like Truex is it's a coin flip if he's going to be crashed out. And whereas Alfredo, I feel like I got 80-20 chances that, he finishes up front. So people like me are going to play Alfredo. They're going to play Reagan. They're going to play those guys over Truex. But I do think there's a lot of people kind of in between, people that know how to build lineups, but maybe don't know how safe they truly need to be. I do think they'll end up in that range. So potentially, yes, they will. But to answer the question, I will say Austin Dillon over Stenhouse, just because he feels like the more methodical person than Ricky.
Yeah, I think with super speedway cash games, it seems like most times we come to them, it's like you find yourself in a situation where like you're 1 versus 1 with people. I don't think you're going to be in that situation today. I think cash lineups are going to be a little different. I don't think you're going to have to worry as much about being right between Dawson Dillon and Ricky Stenhouse, right? I think there's a little bit more wiggle room this week, which makes cash a good week to play cash. Maybe I should enter some cash lineups because I haven't yet. We'll get to your sleeper picks in this range just a moment. I did want to talk about Bubba Wallace one last time here before we move on, but like he can win the Daytona. I mean, he can win the Daytona 500 today, right? Like he can, and like how huge would that be for the sport if he wins the Daytona 500 today? Not today,
awesome.
Tomorrow.
Yes, tomorrow. It'd be awesome. Like, yeah, it'd be huge. It'd be massive. There's every time I see like a news clipping from the Wall Street Journal or something, it feels like Bubba Wallace is the face on it. They go to a Knicks game. Ryan Blaney, the champ, gets cropped out of the picture so they can just show Bubba Wallace. Bubba's the star. He is the star of the sport, unfortunately. And more than Chase Elliott, more than everyone. Like within us, we know Chase Elliott's better. We know Chase is our guy, whatever. But to the public, Bubba's that guy. He's that linchpin. If he goes off, if he gets a win like this, it's the biggest thing that could happen over anyone else winning. Within us, if RCR number 3 wins, we're all like, hell yeah, Dale Sr. But that's just still us in the NASCAR world, right? Like Bubba Wallace is a guy that can transcend other sports and other things. And that starts with Michael Jordan being the team owner, right? All the way down to everything else. So it'd be really, really big. Like to me, that would, and you saw it from the next Netflix show. The 2 he's had at this point, one just him, and then this other, last one where it was mainly focused around him for a lot of it. So he is the guy, and if he wins, it'd be massive. And the fact of the matter is, he's one of probably the top 8 guys I'd pick. I think he's one of the 8 best, and it's hard to go against like Keselowski and Hamlin, but right underneath him, Bubba Wallace. He's right up there, so he's definitely got to watch.
Here's the fun part about all that, though. As good as he is, right, and as young as he is, like, it's going to happen eventually. Like, he will win the Daytona 500 at some point in his career. Like, we are going to get. He will. Like, he's.
Well, you say that, but Kyle Busch is 20 years in.
Well, Kyle Busch is not the super speedway racer Bubba Wallace is, though. Like, really,
I don't
Bubba Wallace.
Necessarily.
I don't know. Yeah. Bubba Wallace is really good at super speedways, and he's got a guy like Denny Hamlin train him. Denny Hamlin is always going to be super laser focused on this race, even when he's retired. Like, this is going to be a big focus for that team. Toyota, I think he will eventually win the 500, and it's going to be massive for the sport. Whether it's 5 years, 10 years from now, who knows if the sport will be able to capitalize on it at that point. But I think
F1 will be bigger by then, anyways.
No bullshit. All right. We spent a lot of time on this one, so let's talk about your sleepers, the guys who are going to be under-owned. You touched on Chase Briscoe. Who else in this range? I know probably Chastain, LaJoie are going to be probably slightly under Bubba and Martin Truex in this range. But who are the other guys who will be under-owned?
Sorry, I clicked the wrong thing. Give me a sec.
The
other thing is I had to move upstairs because my internet sucks. So I'm not in my normal place, and my setup's not normal, and that's why I'm struggling here. If you're wondering for some stuff. But here, I got the lineup up finally. So first off, Justin Haley strikes me as a great play because I know Justin Haley is phenomenal at super speedways. going to go super overlooked, starting 22nd.
7%
In the
owned,
same
maybe?
vein, what's that?
7% owned for Justin Haley today, probably?
Probably, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I feel like that's got, dude, he went looking the duels. He took that car to the front. It's going to be fun to watch. I think he's a good sneaky one. AJ Allmendinger is no one I really, really like. He starts further back, and I think he's 65-1 to win this race, which felt really high. But Allmendinger is someone that consistently finds his way to the front. Obviously, in the Xfinity Series with Kaulig, he was a part of their domination there. That doesn't necessarily equate to the Cup Series just because there's only 14 good Xfinity cars on Super Speedway, so they kind of have an advantage. But even all the way back to 2010, Allmendinger's had success at Daytona. He's looked really good on Super Speedways. He's a smart veteran driver, and I do think he's a guy starting 28th who has huge place differential potential to really deliver a good score. And that's the type of thing I'm looking for. We didn't talk about him at all yet. We're 35 minutes in. We went through the entire back. We've moved up to Chase Briscoe. We've done all these things. We haven't touched on this guy, but from 28th, he's someone that can truly, impact the slate. And I think he goes extremely overlooked, and he's not even that risky of a driver. So I really do like him as well.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, this range is pretty easy. You know where everybody's going to click. Everybody's going to click Bubba. Everybody's going to click Martin. Then they're going to click LaJoy, probably Chastain, and everybody else is going to be, in that 5 to 15% own range. Maybe. I think you might get, some guys a little closer to 20, maybe, but still a lot of leverage there. Jimmy Johnson, is anybody going to play him with his name? What do you think he gets ownership wise? Because he's in a Toyota. If you're playing Toyota stack, I think you're going to, Jimmy's kind of a little attractive.
I think Jimmy's low. I think Jimmy's like 12% owned, 10% owned. But this is a product of the field being spread out, right? This is a product of 39 capable drivers of finishing top 10. And so it's hard to, when I was doing my ownership, I kept having to take ownership off of people. Like I was like, nah, this play is going to be 42%. And then I started filling out. I'm like, well, it can't be 750% ownership on a six-person lineup. So I had to keep pulling ownership off of people. And I was like, who the hell is going to be the 4% owned drivers? Who's going to be 8% owned when I feel like they should be 14? And so I think we're going to be really surprised by the low ownership of certain drivers. When we get into this race, we're going to look at it and be like, why the hell is Ryan Preece 8% owned? And things like that. And I don't think that's what Ryan Preece will be. I think he'll be in the 14, 15 range. But what if he's just 8? And this is something that's going to impact every driver. So I do think we'll see some spots that are incredibly low that will be like, damn, I wish I had more of that. And Allmendinger feels like he fits that really well. Jimmy feels like he'll be low owned because he wrecks all the time here in the back part of his career, and so I think that kind of sticks with people where they see Jimmy always in some sort of incident, barely qualifying for the 500, barely doing this. And it doesn't feel like 7-time champion Jimmy Johnson. It feels like kind of shitty driver Jimmy Johnson. And so I don't feel like people are going to be on him. And I do think that's a car or a driver that could be under 10%. I do think that's a possibility. And in which case, yeah, it's a top 10 car at 7% ownership or something weird. And that could be a good spot for sure.
Yeah, you got guys like Bubba priced around him, starting back, Truex, guys like Stenhouse priced right there with them, Austin Dillon, all those guys starting. Everybody's going to click the higher numbers. Nobody's going to play Jimmy. Here's a good one. Any concern about Allmendinger racing 800 miles at Daytona tomorrow? Does that concern you? A fatigue factor? That's got to be mentally draining, 800 miles at Daytona, dude. Like,
No,
I
don't think so. Yes, it's going to be draining to an extent, but for periods, like the Xfinity race is going to be a lot of just jockeying early. I don't think it's going to be as crazy. There's only 20 elite teams and then 20 backmarker teams, right? Like there's a huge separation there. And then if he gets to the first big crash, he's probably just dealing with 8 other guys. And we've seen races there where it's just, like Logano and Larson, I think it was a few years back, we're just swapping the lead back and forth, and they're just playing with the field. I think AJ is probably going to be in that kind of deal where he's just kind of riding and hanging out. I don't think it's like a fatigue issue or it's going to be in the 70s. It'll be kind of tiring, but this isn't like middle of the summer, 90-degree heat, getting your butt burnt.
I'm thinking mentally draining, though.
It's not like it's a Bristol race or a Dover or something where it's extremely physically demanding or road course. It's still just Daytona. It's all mental here. So I could see him towards the end getting fried, but there's going to be a lot of time through red flags and different things that are going to happen in the race to kind of re-catch this. Again, if it was Martinsville and we had a 120 lap green flag run, I'd be like, yeah, that dude's gonna struggle for it. But Daytona, he can kind of ride for a while. He can, there'll be a big wreck, sit in the red flag situation. I'm not worried about that with anyone. I know Suarez is in it, and Nemechek's in both of them as well. So got 3 guys kind of dealing with it, but it doesn't impact me.
All right. Any final thoughts on that mid range there before we head on up to the?
No. Now we get into my favorite group here.
I love group here.
I love 11 through 20. I love it.
Tell us why you love it, then, Larkin.
Because we will sit here and talk about how heavily owned Blaney Bush and all the guys in the back will be, and then we'll completely ignore everyone 11 through 20, and we'll get super low ownership on the guy that's going to win the race. Last summer, Chris Buescher started 11th. He was 12% owned, and he was the race winner and dominator and was the best play. Keselowski started 12th and was 17% owned. They had won both duels in 2022. Keselowski had led the most laps in the Daytona 500 last year. They go into that race and no one played him. Why? Because they started 11th and 12th.
So you think Keselowski-Buescher combo comes in under-owned again this week?
I don't think this time, because I think people got smacked across the face last time. I think they realized, oh, crap, we missed that. We had a few people take down tournaments with those two. So, yay us, because we were smart enough not to avoid them. But this is the prime area where you get some place differential. You get the potential of a top car or a top driver like Keselowski. Like, Brad Keselowski coming under owned is so baffling to me. Like, it's Brad Keselowski. We know what he's capable of here.
You think, but he is the 3rd highest favorite. I still think he gets 20%, 21, 22.
Today, yes. But he was 17% last race here and finished 2nd. Like, we overlooked it, and the field overlooked it. And so, but that happens all the time here, all the time. And the guy starting 14th or 15th or 16th, who is an elite driver, who is in an elite car, in an HMS car, in a whatever, they just get overlooked. And that creates a really low ownership opportunity. But when you look at the race results, you look at every Daytona finish, the guys starting up front are the ones finishing up front right now. Mm-hmm. It's not these guys starting 30th that are up front necessarily. There's 2 or 3, and we need those 2 or 3. But 3 of our top 5 started top 10. The last 4 races, go look. It's guys starting.
I said it earlier. You got to get through, right? You got to get through the wrecks. And these guys make it through the wreck too.
When we're trying to win $1 million, when we're trying to be different, when we're trying to do these things, you have to play this area. You just have to. And because it gets overlooked and you get them at low ownership, you not only hit the right play by picking them, but then you don't have anyone else on them. The field's only at 10% or something, and you actually end up just smashing the slate. And that's what happened with Buescher last year. We see that a lot every time out. And so it's so important to play this area. And it's so important because they're going to be on the winning lineup. I don't know who. I can't tell you right now who it's going to be.
Well, what the hell? Why did we even do this podcast then if you can't tell us who, Ryan?
I'm sorry.
That's the whole goddamn point.
Get me to Richmond and I'll tell you who. It's just, I look at Daniel Suarez, starts 13th. That's not Brad Keselowski, right? That is not the same guy. So I'm less likely to play Suarez or Zane Smith or even Ty Gibbs at 15th. So, yeah, maybe not as much this race, but if Harrison Burton in a Penske car were to finish 4th or 5th in this race, would you be shocked?
No, he can win, to be honest.
So Austin Cindric continuously does well here, right? Like, he got another second duel. I think he's finished 2nd in 3 straight duels, Austin Cindric has. He has a Daytona 500, and this is simply just because the car's good enough. Harrison Burton was at the front. Cindric kind of screwed him over at the end of that duel, but Harrison Burton was up there, right? Harrison Burton is a guy that starts 12th. He will be 3% owned. Nobody's putting Harrison Burton in the lineup. And he has every ability to be on the winning lineup by simply finishing 4th and doing what he should do. So it doesn't feel good. I know you guys won't like it. But, man, you just have to play this range. Now, for me, the reason why I love this range is Keselowski and Buescher are fantastic. They're amazing plays. Hit them again. I love Kyle Larson tomorrow.
And?
Kyle Larson. Just Kyle Larson.
You're not going to pair him with the other HMS guy,
right? Oh, yeah, you'll pair him. When you're building lineups, you'll have coverage that. I don't care about Byron.
I just feel like Larson and
Byron's going to
Byron.
get ownership.
I think Larson and Byron are very similar to that Keselowski Busher you just talked. That combo like is going to be 12%.
Yes. Working together wise, yes. But to me, Byron is someone who should have won the championship. He won 6 races. People think he's a better super. Everyone thinks Kyle Larson sucks at this. Like historically, his results are horrible. And everyone's going to be like, I don't want Kyle Larson. I want Busher. I don't want Kyle Larson. I want Keselowski. And if it came between Larson and Byron, they're going Byron. So I think psychologically, you're going to get Kyle Larson at a lower number than these guys. He had the fastest car the other night in the duel. His car was the best car that I saw on track. It is super fast. I love what I see from that. I love the fact that people are overlooking him. They're going to overlook him for Keselowski and Busher. Yes, you'll want to pair Byron. Like you want to do that teammate stack because if they both get through the wreck and they're there at the end, they can work together and get to the front. That's the same thing Keselowski and Busher did last year, right? It's the same philosophies. Like these guys get paired up at the end, they got a shot. But to me, Kyle Larson just stands out so much for every reason, for everything. He checks every single box for me. And yes, he may wreck. He may literally just be in the first wreck and it doesn't work out. But when I'm looking to build a lineup, this is what I want to attack. And regardless of the outcome, I know this is the type of play I want to be on. A lower ownership guy, I don't want Blaney, I want Larson, right? And cash, yeah, I'm going to go heavy on those guys. I'm going to try to build in some safety net with those guys. But to be different and to get to that big money, I love the Larson play. I actually sneakily like the Burton play. If he can get teamed up with Blaney and his other Penske teammates at the front, that could work out really, really.
That's a good way to get. That's a good way to get really different with that Blaney lineup is to pair him with Harrison Burton because there's not going to be too many Harrison Burton Blaney combos out there.
And that's because teammate stacking does matter. Like to an extent, it doesn't. If half of them get wiped out in a wreck, then that can hurt you. But from the flip side of that, if they do get through together, they have the ability to do really well. And Harrison Burton's got a great car. And I think that's someone that he may not see 3% ownership. No one's going to play him.
No.
So it's a great way to be different. And the car's definitely capable of it. And you just never know with these races. You never know. Go look at the race that that Austin Cindric won. Look at the top 10. It's not pretty. And so you just never know.
Yeah, you never know, right? I like this in the chat. Somebody asked if Busher's going to be fine because they had a newborn a couple of days ago, and BG3 drops the hammer and says, "No, he should be fine. I think his wife had the baby." that was a pretty good one. So speaking teams and duos and stacks, so why don't you? Who is your? You talking about? Yeah, it was a good one. Right? I had to say, who is your? You mentioned about Keselowski and Busher last time. So who is your favorite low-owned stack today? 2 to 3. Yeah, a 2 to 3 driver stack that your favorite low-owned 2 to 3 driver stack.
It's probably the Trackhouse guys. It's probably Suarez and Chastain. Because Suarez is starting 13th. No one's going to want to really be on him. He makes a lot of mistakes, and people just don't like him in general. So I think Suarez and Chastain fit that mold the best. I don't even really want to necessarily be on them myself. But if I'm making 150 lineups, I'm using that idea that I want to pair teammates together a lot. To me, that those are really fast cars. They do work good together as teammates. Ross Chastain's aggressive to get them, the opportunity. So I think those are guys that, and Suarez has horrible track record here at Daytona. Like this is not a guy we think is going to be good here. But man, if again you're looking to be different, that's a good one. So I think if we can sit here and say RFK is going to be really good. Yes, Busher and Keselowski are going to be elite upside guy. We can trust them to do well most of the time. But if you're trying to be different, you're trying to get off of that obvious pairing. Trackhouse makes sense. And then I also really like Stewart-Haas. From in totality, Stewart-Haas all start towards the back, right? Like Gregson starting in the back, Priest is 20th, and then Priest is 25th, and Briscoe's 20th, right? Like these guys are towards the back. Riley Herbst is 30, whatever. Mm-hmm. So you get the place differential with these guys. They have fast cars. They can work together. Like that feels like a really dream scenario to get a team like that all starting towards the back that are all going to be under owned because no one wants to play them. Like
And they all correlate together too. Like how perfect. Like that is a beautiful stack. I like that. I don't even know. Like
So I
this
really,
is why I have you, because I didn't even like view them as that. But yeah, that's fucking set up perfectly. Yeah,
thank
perfect.
you. Yeah, I mean, but that's yes, that Stuart Haas stack's probably my favorite overall in totality. Because you can play it safe, but you can also get the upside, and you can put teammates together, and it really fits well. And the ownership's just not going to be what it should. So you don't even have to worry about chalkiness, which is fantastic. Yes,
All right.
This is very true point though.
He does.
He does like the red card at Daytona. That is
Ryan Blaney though too.
That wreck last year for Priest was unbelievable. That was wild.
Yeah, Ryan Blaney likes the red card too. So here. All right. Like I know you talk Daniel Suarez, man. Like I don't know if I can get my finger to click him, man, starting 13th.
Yeah, no one else will either.
I know, which makes him a great play. I just, man.
Let's
do
I
can get behind Harrison Burton. Like you can probably get me behind anybody else in that range, but just even though I of course you know me, I'm stacked the back all the way, right? So I don't think I'm too much of Zane, Daniel, Burton, Jones.
Well, let's talk top 10 because I saw a couple questions up at the top. But so I wanted to kind of give you an idea. I want to go back to Austin Cindric 500 real quick, the one that Cindric won. He started 5th and finished 1st. Bubba Wallace finished 2nd, so there's Bubba again. Chase Briscoe started 9th, finished 3rd. Blaney started 7th, finished 4th. These are all guys, all of them started top 16, but 3 of them started top 10. Kyle Busch started 10th, finished 6th. McDowell started 6th, finished 7th. Imagine fading all the top 10 and being like, I don't want them. And then 5 of the top 7 finishers started top 10. To me, you just got to remember to play this area. You can't afford to fade it. Brad Keselowski started 3rd in this race, led 67 laps, and finished 9th. I don't think Brad was optimal, but he was very close with those laps led, and he didn't crash out. And that gets us to Joey Logano. That gets me to Joey Logano. Logano starts on the pole. Logano's a guy that will 100% try to dominate this race. He will look to lead laps. Do I think Joey Logano could lead 60 laps in this race and finish top 5? Yes. That's why he's still playable. Okay. And this can be said for McDowell, and this can be said for the other guy starting top 10. But Joey Logano specifically is a guy that starts so far forward that he has to lead laps. But he's also a guy that can do it. This isn't a average driver. This is the tippy top, best of the best. So I don't want to play a lot of them. If you're trying to play safe, you don't play Logano. But if Joey Logano led 60 laps and finished 4th, nobody in the world would be surprised. And that would probably be an optimal performance. So you have to keep that in mind when you're building lineups. If you're maxing out the mini max or the milli maker, holy crap, you have to consider that. You have to factor that in. Even if you only want 5% or 8% ownership on it, it is an actual possibility. Denny Hamlin starting 8th is in this same position. Denny Hamlin is as good as it gets. He's a guy that can lead laps. He probably will lead laps and probably will contend for a top 5 finish, right? His upside is fantastic. Even though he starts top 10, these are 2 of the absolute best, 2 of the very most likely drivers to lead laps. And so you have to factor that in with them. Now, the rest of the top 10, you can talk me out of. McDowell, Reddick, Bell, I don't think lead. Cindric has a good result, but do I really want him from 6, right? You can talk me out of these guys, and I probably consider fading them. And I want to pull up the comment from earlier. I don't know how long it'll take me. We actually have a lot of people sending in comments and stuff. I appreciate everyone that did it. Here we go. I think this was it. If you're willing to play to win, would you X out a handful of guys in the top 10 and some of the chalk in the back, or do you just go under on them? So if you got 20 lineups or 150 lineups, you can be aggressive, but you'll want some coverage to guys in the back. You won't want to X them out. You will definitely want to either go under if you're trying to leverage that, but you don't want to X out the guys in the back. At the front, though, if you X'd out Michael McDowell, I want to question you on it. Like, I'd be like, yeah, go ahead. That you can leverage that spot. But you got to remember, you're only leveraging 7% or 8% of the field. You're not getting a huge value by Xing them out. Reddick, Bell, Cindric, Bowman to an extent, but even Hocevar, those guys feel like if you want to make stands, you want to just take out 15% of the field and X those guys out, you can. Because any one of these guys that crash out, they're going to score negative 20 points, negative 50 points. They eliminate lineups. They're lineup killers. So there is something to be said for Tyler Reddick not leading 50 laps. Like, that feels very rare to me in the range of outcomes. I'm sure Sim Bros will probably run a million sims and tell me that he's led 50 laps in 20 of them or some bullshit. but like, that's just not realistically going to happen. Tyler Reddick's not going to lead laps. He's not going to realistically finish up front. Like, that's not something I anticipate. So that feels like a driver. Okay, I'm going to X him out. Chase Elliott, do you think he can lead laps? Yes. Do you think he can win this race? Yes. And that's where you got to start playing. Okay, I know a lot of guys are finishing top 10 that start top 10. Even top 5 finishers are top 10. Like this, it wouldn't be a shocker to see Chase Elliott finish 3rd or 2nd and to do so with 20 or 30 laps led. At which point he's, 20 laps led, adding 5 points to that total. That could be enough to see him on a winning lineup. So I think like Logano, Chase Elliott, Hamlin, even Bowman because it's an HMS car, even though I don't love him, or even Cindric because it's a Penske car, even though I don't love him. I think those guys you kind of have to keep in there a little bit. If you want to be super aggressive, you can mark out certain guys. If you're playing it safe, if you're playing cash, you don't touch the top 10. You don't touch the top 15 even in cash. I don't touch the top 25. So that's a whole nother story. But you don't touch these guys in cash. But if you're trying to win $1 million, yeah, you probably want some coverage here because in recent years, these are the guys that are hitting. And whether you like it or not, that's kind of where you need to be on. I know Jones, John Hunter, Nemechek, they're kind of sketchy. But if Eric Jones finished 2nd, again, it's not surprising, and that would be a slate stealer. So I don't mind Xing drivers out, especially from this range, because the field's not really going to hurt you with 3% Tyler Reddick or 5% Tyler Reddick. The field's just it's just not going to do anything to you. And the odds of him crashing is extremely high. The odds of him actually finishing top 5 is extremely low. By the time you start factoring in his path to being a good play, it's incredibly small and hard to get to. So I'm fine with that. If you want to do that for sure with lineup building, you can X out certain guys and take stands.
Yeah, I mean that's a great way to break it down. I think, like you said, if you're playing those guys up front, like I think the guys who have the most value and the most likely to pay off of those guys are going to run towards the front because that's the safest place to run, right? Is out in front. We've seen, if you're leading or in the first two rows of that pack, you're less likely getting those wrecks. So that's why I think when you're playing those guys, I think it is smart to correlate them with maybe their teammates because for them to run up front, they're probably going to need some help to kind of stay up there the whole race. So they're going to need to probably pair them with somebody who's going to be pushing, either a manufacturer, a teammate. So yeah, like all that. Any other final thoughts on the top 10 or this roster grid or anything like that before I do have, a little segment here that will kind of summarize everything for people. So any final thoughts before I move to that?
My only thought I have is have you picked anyone for these tickets we're giving away? I know we're giving away 3 Millie Maker tickets. I haven't picked anyone yet. I haven't even thought about it.
You were going to do that shit.
What? Oh, shit. Okay.
You may randomly pick people. We can do that.
Randomly pick some people. Pick some people. We should have set up the Wheel of Destiny for this. Is what we should have done.
Why don't I will start picking guys, but I want to toss out this next segment so you can start talking about this while I do that. Okay. So this is going to be a little way that I want to kind of round up our talks every week. This week, it's probably not going to be as fun because it's super speedway. We know the nature of it, but hopefully this will be something to help people as we move forward and doing more of these shows, but we're going to do it for fun today. Okay. It's called Core 4, Pour 4, and 4 more. Okay. Yeah. Right. Let's start with your Core 4. I want to know 4 drivers, right, who you feel like not necessarily need to be cored together, right? You're not playing all 4 of these lineups together, but you want to be exposed to some combination of these 4. Like you believe the slate is dependent on these guys. Core 4.
What is it? Core 4, Pour 4, 4 more?
Just start with Core 4 first. I'll explain Pour 4 when we get to that.
So for me, I love David Reagan. To me, he's the first one at that list. 1, because he starts dead last. 2, he's been fantastic at getting through the crashes. It's an RFK car. He's teammates with Buescher and Keselowski this weekend. That car's going to be capable of running at the very front. I love the upside he brings. I love the safety he brings. I love everything about that play. And the fact that ownership's not going to be as high as it should be, he should be 40% owned. He will not be. So I absolutely love that play. Next up, Kyle Larson. I touched on him earlier. Like in my tournament lineups, I'm going to be over on him. I'm going to have a lot of him. This is a cognitive ease thing for me. I've been researching a lot about the way my mindset is heading into slates with lineup picking, not overreacting, not self-correcting and overanalyzing, just going with what I feel is right and just sticking with it. Larson fits that for me this week. It's risky. I know there's risk here. I know starting 17th, if he wrecks out, there's some concern. But to me, I want to play it safe within my being. I want to know when I see my lineups, if he crashes out, I'm confident in it. I feel good about it. I did what I wanted to do, and it was the right way. I built the right way, and I feel like Larson fits that mold. I don't care about the fact that he wrecks here a lot in the past or whatever. He fits exactly what I want from lineups today or tomorrow, Tuesday, if it takes that long. Hopefully not. God, that would suck. Next up, I do want Ryan Blaney. I know it's chalky, but too much upside, too much potential, race dominating potential. He is the freaking man. And I do want a lot of Ryan Blaney because the upside's too good. The upside is everything you need in this race. And I don't want to shy away from it. I want to be different with the Kyle Larsons and do some other things in my lineup to probably get away, from the chalk a little bit. But like I said, I think ownership's so spread out that you might not have that big of an issue just being different with one driver and really separating yourself by going with Blaney in your lineup. And then lastly, I really do, we talked about this a little bit earlier, but I really do like AJ Allmendinger. Allmendinger is not going to go up there and light the world on fire early in this race. He's not going to go up there and lead. He's not going to do anything like that. But by the end of this race, I know I can get a guy at lower ownership. I can get a guy that has the ability to show up late. I do think he's someone that will play a little safer overall. And that can get me to the end with the top 10 finish. So I really do like AJ Allmendinger in that spot to get away from those obvious plays in the back like Austin Dillon and Ricky Stenhouse.
I like it. So core four there, like Reagan, Larson, Blaney, Dinger. All right. Pour four. Four guys you're not touching, you don't want no part of. You're crossing them off. I know it's hard.
Reddick and Bell are up there. Carson Hocevar. And let's go ahead and write off Alex Bowman as well. That one scares me a little bit. But I'm not touching those guys inside the top 10. And we just talked about Xing people out. Yeah, this is the area I'm Xing out. I don't necessarily care about driver ability. I care about situationally how this race can play out and the best way to get to a winning lineup. I don't feel like those guys fit the mold. And, if they all started 25th, they would all be really good plays, but they don't. And so I want to get away from those guys.
All right, pour forward. Don't even play them. Don't even mention. Don't even fucking click them. Reddick, Bell, Hocevar, cross them off. That should save you, a little bit of ownership there. All right, last one here. Four more. These are four guys who you like as leverage today. You don't think anybody's going to play the good leverage spots. Four more.
Cool. So we'll start with Josh Berry. I think he's amazing leverage down in that area where we're talking about. Corey LaJoie right in front of him. Blaney, Austin Dillon, Kyle Busch, and Ricky Stenhouse right behind him. I think he's just so sneaky in that area. And that's a spot I really, really like. Jimmy Johnson. We talked about him earlier. I don't think his track record's good. Starting 23rd, I think he's a little too far forward for people to really feel comfortable in him. That's a differentiator. That's a guy where it's like, holy crap, Travis Pastrana last year, right? In this, weird backup Toyota car, whatever you want to call it. Like, you look up and you're like, how the hell is Travis Pastrana 10th? Well, he just got through it, right? He just got through the race and shut up at the end. I think Jimmy can do that. He may just go up there and be like, I want to lead because I'm Jimmy Johnson or what. But it's a very sneaky point, and I think that's a good spot. And then Justin Haley in 22nd fits that as well. Both these guys start right behind some chalkier drivers in Buescher, Keselowski, and all that group. Chastain, Bubba Wallace they're sandwiched in between there. And I think Justin Haley's got really big upside. Now, Haley's a riskier play. He's not a safe play. Riley Herbst is a safer play. But Haley strikes me as one of the better drivers at this. His decision-making is really, really good. Justin Haley has he has phenomenal decision-making. And I think he's a guy that can finish at the front. And that's an RFK line. So if he gets through it at the end of the race, he's paired up with Keselowski. Don't be surprised if they tandem them together, that type deal. So I really like Justin Haley. And then a last one. I want to give someone good. Like I don't want to just.
They're all good.
Let's not overthink it. We'll go Riley Herbst.
Yeah.
I think from 36 in the Stewart-Haas car, lots of potential there. And he's proven to be aggressive and have the ability to do well. So I really like that play.
Perfect. So sum it up. Core 4, Reagan, Larson, Blaney, Dinger. Don't play Reddick, Bell, Hosef, or Bowman. If you're looking for leverage, go for Barry, Herbst, Jimmy Johnson, and Haley. I think that'll set you up. I think that's the $1 million combination right there from Larkin. All right, that's going to cover us for the DFS content part of the show. I hope we got you guys set up for $1 million. I appreciate Larkin doing this, but I do want to selfishly walk through some of my bets to you, Larkin. I want to kind of get your feedback on some of the bets I made. Tell me, like, I promise you guys, like, first off, full disclosure, do not follow these bets. This is not financial advice. This is not me giving out content, because guarantee you some of these bets are I got stoned and just put a few bucks on them, right? I'm not going to tell you my unit size and all that, but we're just going to go through, right? And smash that like button. Thank you, Kevin Lane, for that.
God, yeah, you're not doing very good at this hosting thing,
I'm
man.
not. I just do good shows, and they'll do it for you, right? All right, so let's go. We're gonna walk through this. We don't have to. I'll go through them quickly, right? I don't want you to talk about each one. I'll just tell you where I'm at, and then you tell me what you think about my spread here. I feel like a freaking NASCAR capper. I got 9 guys here. All right, Corey LaJoy at plus 6,500. Denny Hamlin at plus 1,000. That actually was an accidental bet. I meant to bet Denny for the Clash and was a freaking idiot. And I don't know how I bet him for the 500 until I freaking went to check my winning ticket after the race and saw I had him for the 500. It's the same thing I made fun of my dad for doing last year, and I did it. Anyway, Denny Hamlin plus 1,000. Ross Chastain.
Probably because you're too high to place bets when he did it.
Probably.
Correlation there.
Ross Chastain at plus 3,750. Like that number. Noah Gragson. All right, we're getting into, plus 8,250. Todd Gilliland at plus 9,750. AJ Allmendinger at plus 5,000. Michael McDowell at plus 4,000. Kyle Busch at plus 1,600. And Joey Logano at plus 1,300. Who am I missing there that I need to add to give me 10 round picks? Like, if I can't hit a winner out of 10, then I'm going to retire. Oh, wait, I already have.
You're starting free NASCAR betting, right?
No, don't follow these guys. I promise if you follow this, you will lose money. Do not follow my
Run that list down for me one more time.
Corey LaJoy, Denny Hamlin, Ross Chastain, Noah Gragson, Todd Gilliland, AJ Allmendinger, Michael McDowell, Kyle fucking Busch, Joey Logano.
One guy to round it out.
Who am I missing?
There's a lot of guys. So I unfortunately, I saw AJ Allmendinger that he was, 65 to 1. It looks like he's 55 to 1 now. I think a lot of things are switched from when I looked a couple of days ago. I'm trying to find something really good. I prefer to chase these bigger numbers. Like Austin Dillon plus 4,000 seems really weird. Even Stenhouse plus 2,800 because, he won here last year. Like, it's obvious he has the ability to do it. These are some longer odds. I think
I'm seeing Stenhouse plus 3,500.
Yeah. I would probably add, just because I want to get the bigger numbers, I would add Daniel Suarez at plus 6,500. And, it's Daniel Suarez. You don't have to feel great about it. But 65 to 1, man.
Yeah,
I'm not going to sit here and tell you already got enough drivers on your list. You already got enough guys. I mean, you got a quarter of the field. No. Yeah, well, that's the key to betting is you bet every driver.
You can't lose.
Then you're like, hey, look, I got a winning screenshot. It's like, yeah, you bet the whole field, bro. Like, it doesn't matter. But you got yourself a chance. If the 65 to 1 hits, then you can thank me with some money.
Okay, I'll bet Daniel Suarez. I'll put $1 on
it. I feel like I've shitted on everyone. I've shitted on Sims. I've shitted on betting. I promise I'm not that mean.
It's all right. That's what we do, I guess. All right, wrap it up. Finally, who wins?
The people. I have veto power, right? Like if someone's a jerk, I can say no, they don't get it.
I don't know. You can, I guess, but that'd be kind of rude to do live. Let's go here. First winner I have is a Brent Fiore, Fiore. Twitter handle is at Blue Raider 99. You will be getting a $25 milli ticket that you will turn into $50 after following our advice today. Tyler, next winner, Tyler Gregory. He is at NARZ, that's a silent G, one of those guys, GNARZ, Tyler, TYLER on Twitter. You, congratulations, will be able to turn $25 into $100 on with your entry today. And then finally, Soda Kid 80 is the third winner. Twitter handle at Sota, SOTA Kid, KID 941. You have won the Millie Maker ticket that will be worth $1 million. So make sure you get it entered in.
There we go. Wrote them down. So the key was I didn't want to pick them, and so I let Jason do that. But we'll reach out. We'll get you guys squared away. We got a whole day to get that handled, which is nice. So I don't have to do it right away. But oh wow. So is this Kevin Lane one of our winners?
I don't know. Is he?
There we go.
Oh yeah, sweet.
Perfect.
Look at that.
Well,
Look at
congrats, Kevin.
What are the odds one of our 12 listeners were on and won?
That is a fantastic thing. Hopefully one of you guys can win. If you win the $1 million with my money, though, we're having a conversation. I'm coming to find you. I can get $20 back, right? But
remember, I'm the one that picked your name. If you did,
we were using it to promote the show and everything. So I appreciate everyone who retweeted it and was a part of that. We're going to do more giveaways like that, throughout the year. We got 17 more shows, I think. So we'll do some more stuff and have some more fun with it. Looking forward to having a big year and hopefully a big Daytona 500.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. I look forward to breaking these down with you, Ryan, to jump on and do these podcasts. I think we're going to do another one here for Vegas. Like I said, appreciate you helping us out, telling us which direction to go. If you guys are looking to be like me and retire, right, from doing all the research, all the hard work, and just having Ryan do all the work for you, like go over Daily Fan Racing, he'll get you guys squared away. I know we joke around about today not being very predictable or this week being very predictable, but things get a lot better this season, and Ryan does a very good job. He kicked my ass, I think, in his season long 2 years in a row, I think. So,
well, yeah. Let me do some promos real quick. So yes, Daily Fan Racing, that's where all my premium content is. This weekend's not about me pinpointing exactly who the best plays are, right? Like that's really, really hard to do on Daytona. But like some of the guys have signed up this week have said for the first time, they're like, Ryan, your content is as thorough as anyone else is out there. You give me more information on lineup construction, more information on how to attack these slates. And that's the key. It's not necessarily me just saying, hey, play this guy. This is how you build your lineups. This is how we attack the slate. This is what you need to look for, how you need to contemplate things, and how you need to do things. So that is the key to it. We still got Xfinity and Cup tomorrow. Sign up. There's plenty of action this weekend. We had a large amount of weekly people try us out this week. Jump in on it if you want to try it out for just a week. If not, do a yearly. Like do the whole deal. But we will be providing the best content all year long. I promise you, no one will touch us. Everyone can have their little sheet with numbers and colors and all that stuff. It doesn't equate to wins. It never has and never will. You need to know the context of slates. You need to know the context of drivers. You need to know all the information, and that's what I deliver. The other side of that, the things you didn't do, like, subscribe, comment, right? So everyone like the channel or like the video, like the video, subscribe to the channel. Jason, he has told me that we're going to have 300,000 subscribers on this channel by the end of the year. So I need you guys to subscribe and get us there.
He's going to fire me if we don't. So
you're retired.
All right. I don't know. It's a complicated system we've built over here. All right. All right. Larkin, leave him with one last thing, man. Who the hell is going to win the Daytona 500?
God, I don't know.
Yeah, but you
got Kyle Larson. He's going to do it.
Larson. I love it. I like it. All right. Thank you all for listening. Subscribe, follow, check out Ryan's stuff. Till next time, till Vegas. We'll see you guys in 2 weeks.
All right.
Peace out.
See you guys later.